My shift was supposed to end at 11. Instead, I stood at the nurse's station at 2:17 in the morning, charting vitals for an overdose patient in Bay 4, while my feet screamed in protest. 3 years working nights at County General had taught me to ignore exhaustion, to function on coffee and adrenaline, to tune out the chaos that defined emergency medicine. But nothing prepared me for the paramedics who burst through the doors with a child seizing on the gurney. I dropped my pen. The sound disappeared beneath the urgency in the lead paramedic's voice. 5-year-old male, unknown identity, found unresponsive at a private residence. Tonic-clonic seizures started en route. No response to initial interventions. The boy looked small against the white sheets, his body rigid, muscles locked in spasm. Dr. Harris, our senior resident, rushed from Trauma 2, already pulling on fresh gloves. 2 other nurses converged from opposite directions. We moved with rehearsed precision born from thousands of similar emergencies. I positioned myself at the boy's left side, checking the IV line the paramedics had placed. The fluid was running. Good. But something felt wrong. Not the seizure itself. Those I'd seen countless times. Something about the pattern, the presentation, the subtle details everyone else seemed to miss. "Get him on monitors," Dr. Harris ordered. "I need a full panel, CBC, metabolites, tox screen, standard epilepsy protocols." I watched the boy's face as we transferred him to the ER bed. His lips held a faint bluish tint, barely visible under the harsh lights. Not cyanosis from oxygen deprivation. Something else. Something that made my mind race through every textbook I'd memorized during my pediatric emergency training. The seizure continued. 2 minutes. 3. Dr. Harris administered the first dose of medication. Nothing changed. The attending physician arrived, Dr. Morrison, who'd been handling a cardiac arrest in the next bay. He glanced at the monitors, at the child, made the same assumptions. "Increase the dosage," he said. "If this doesn't work, we're looking at status epilepticus." But I couldn't look away from the boy's hands. The tremor wasn't symmetrical. His right side jerked with more violence than his left. His pupils, when I checked them with my penlight, reacted but not quite right. Sluggish. Irregular. My breath caught. I knew this. I'd studied this exact presentation during my advanced certification. A syndrome so rare that most doctors went their entire careers without seeing a case. Reyes syndrome, but not the typical presentation. This was the atypical variant, complicated by metabolic crisis, mimicking other conditions and killing children before anyone realized what they were treating. "Dr. Harris," I said, keeping my voice level, "I need to speak with you." He didn't look up from adjusting the ventilator settings. "Not now, Sophia." The seizure intensified. The boy's back arched. Alarms screamed from every monitor. And I saw it. The moment I'd been dreading. The subtle change in his cardiac rhythm that told me we had minutes, not hours. I stepped directly into Dr. Harris's line of sight. This isn't epilepsy. Look at the asymmetrical presentation, the pupillary response, the slight jaundice in his sclera. This is Reyes syndrome with acute metabolic decompensation. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "A nurse doesn't diagnose. I'm not diagnosing. I'm observing. And if I'm right, the medications you're giving him will make it worse. You need to call Dr. Morrison back, run ammonia levels, start the protocol for metabolic crisis before he goes into cardiac arrest. Sophia, step back." That's an order, but I couldn't. Every instinct I'd honed over 3 years, every hour of additional training I'd pursued on my own time, every case study I'd read when I couldn't sleep, they all screamed that I was right. And this child was dying. I moved without thinking, pulled the crash cart closer, checked the medications, the equipment, positioned everything exactly where it would need to be when his heart stopped, because it would stop. In the next 90 seconds, if someone didn't listen. "Doctor." Morrison strode back in, irritation clear on his face. "What's the delay?" I planted myself between him and the bed. "Sir, with respect, I believe this child has Reyes syndrome. a typical presentation with metabolic crisis. The tremor asymmetry, the pupillary sluggishness, the timing of seizure onset, they all point to cerebral edema and ammonia accumulation. If we don't address the underlying metabolic failure, we'll lose him. The room went silent, except for the machines. Every eye turned to me. Dr. Morrison's expression shifted from irritation to something I couldn't quite read. You're suggesting I missed a diagnosis? I'm suggesting we consider an alternative before this child codes. Please, just check the ammonia levels. Look at his hands, his eyes. This doesn't present like standard seizure disorder. He studied me for a long moment, then looked at the boy. Really looked. His eyes narrowed the way a doctor's do when they're seeing something for the first time. Run the ammonia levels, he said quietly, and get me the metabolic crisis protocol. Now. The team exploded into motion. I helped draw the blood, my hands steady despite my racing heart. 90 seconds later, the results flashed on the screen. Ammonia levels 4 times normal range. Dr. Morrison's face went pale. Jesus Christ, you were right. The next 10 minutes blurred. New medications, new interventions. The protocol I'd pulled from memory, studied for an exam 6 months ago. The seizure began to ease. The boy's vitals stabilized. Not out of danger, not even close, but no longer circling the drain. I stepped back, my legs suddenly weak. Let the doctors do their work. Watched the child's chest rise and fall with the ventilator's rhythm, and tried not to think about how close we'd come to losing him. The doors at the far end of the ER slammed open. I looked up, still catching my breath, and felt the air change. 6 men in dark suits walked in, moving with purpose that made security freeze in place. But it was the man in the center who made everything stop. Tall, maybe 6'2", with black hair shot through with silver at the temples. An Armani suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Eyes, dark brown and intense, swept the ER like he was cataloging threats. A faint scar cut through his right eyebrow. He looked like violence in an expensive package. "Where is my son?" His voice cut through the chaos. Low, controlled, but underneath, something that made my survival instincts wake up. Dr. Morrison moved to intercept him, hands raised in a placating gesture. "Sir, you can't be back here. If you're family, we need you to wait in the consultation room while we stabilize the patient." The man's eyes found the boy, found me standing beside the bed, his gaze locked on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "That's Leonardo, and I'm not waiting anywhere." The security guards moved forward. The 6 suited men shifted, hands moving to their jackets. The tension ratcheted so high I could taste it. Dr. Harris, foolishly brave or stupid, spoke up. This nurse violated protocol. She overstepped her authority. She needs to be removed from duty immediately. The man's attention snapped to Dr. Harris. Something in his expression made the doctor take an involuntary step back. "This nurse violated protocol? She diagnosed your son," Dr. Morrison said quietly, "before anyone else could make this worse. Against orders, against hierarchy, and she was right. If she hadn't pushed, if she hadn't insisted, we would have lost him." The man looked at me again. Really looked. Not the way men usually looked at me, with casual dismissal or worse. This was assessment, calculation, recognition of something I couldn't name. "Your name?" "Sophia Mercanti." He took a step closer. His presence filled the space between us, intimidating not through aggression but through sheer force of personality. I refused to step back, refused to show the fear that curled in my stomach. "You saved my son's life." It wasn't a question. I nodded anyway. Dr. Harris found his voice again, angry and defensive. "She'll still face disciplinary action." She had no authority to question attending physicians. "The hospital board will review this." The man reached into his jacket. Every security guard tensed, but he only pulled out a card, expensive paper stock, embossed lettering, handed it to Dr. Morrison. "No disciplinary action, no review. If this hospital punishes the woman who saved my son, I'll bury this place in lawsuits until there's nothing left but rubble. Are we clear?" The silence stretched. Dr. Morrison looked at the card, at the man, and his face went carefully blank. The kind of blank that meant he'd just recognized exactly who he was dealing with. Crystal clear, Mr. Valentasi. Carlos Valentasi. The name meant nothing to me, but from the way everyone else reacted, it should have. He looked at me one more time, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then he moved to his son's bedside, all the violence in him transforming into something else, something that looked almost like vulnerability. He brushed Leonardo's hair back from his forehead with surprising gentleness. Then he pulled another card from his pocket, walked back to me, pressed it into my hand. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for having the courage to be right." Then he was gone, taking his men and most of the oxygen in the room with him. I stood there, card in my hand, and wondered what the hell had just happened. Wondered why my hand was shaking. Wondered why those dark eyes stayed in my head long after the ER returned to its usual chaos. And wondering, as I finally went home at dawn, if I'd just made the best decision of my life, or the worst. 3 days after the ER incident, I sat in a conference room that smelled of stale coffee and disinfectant, facing a disciplinary board that looked at me like I'd committed murder instead of saving a child's life. The chief nursing officer, Mrs. Patterson, shuffled papers with deliberate slowness while 2 hospital administrators flanked her like executioners. "You understand the severity of what you did, Sophia. I understood that a 5-year-old boy was still alive. That seemed pretty severe to me." Mrs. Patterson's mouth thinned into a line. "You challenged not 1 but 2 attending physicians. You inserted yourself into a medical decision-making process that was not your place to be in." "With respect," I said, keeping my voice even despite the anger simmering in my chest. "I didn't diagnose. I observed. I presented evidence. And Dr. Morrison made the final decision. After you publicly undermined his authority," one of the administrators said. "Do you have any idea how that looked? It looked like saving a life mattered more than ego. The tension in the room could have been cut with a scalpel." Mrs. Patterson leaned forward, her reading glasses catching the fluorescent light. "We're issuing a formal written warning. 1 more incident of insubordination, and you're terminated. Are we clear? Crystal." I walked out of that room with my hands shaking and my career hanging by a thread. But Leonardo Valentasi was in a pediatric ICU recovering, so I'd take the hit. I'd take it 100 times. The next 2 weeks blurred into the usual chaos of night shifts. I threw myself into work, tried not to think about dark eyes and dangerous men, tried to ignore the business card that I'd tucked into my wallet and hadn't thrown away. The name Valentasi nagged at me. I'd finally looked it up. Shipping company, they said. Import-export. The kind of vague description that meant something else entirely. I should have known better than to get involved. But I couldn't stop thinking about that little boy, wondering if he was okay, if the treatment had worked, if he'd have permanent damage. The hospital wouldn't tell me anything. Patient privacy, as if I hadn't been the one to save him. It was a Tuesday night, late, when I finally clocked out at 11:30. My feet ached. My back hurt. I wanted nothing more than my apartment, a hot shower, and 8 hours of unconsciousness. The parking garage was mostly empty, just a handful of cars scattered across the vast concrete expanse. My old Honda was parked in the far corner, where I always left it. Cheaper monthly rate. I was halfway there when I noticed the figure leaning against the driver's side door. Carlos Valentasi looked exactly as I remembered. Same expensive suit, different color. Same dangerous presence. Same eyes that seemed to see through every defense I'd ever built. My heart kicked into overdrive. I stopped 10 feet away, keys clutched in my hand like a weapon. "Mr. Valentasi." "Sophia." He straightened, hands in his pockets, non-threatening posture. But there was nothing non-threatening about a man like him. "I hope you don't mind me waiting. I wanted to speak with you." At nearly midnight in a parking garage? His mouth quirked. Not my smoothest approach. "But you're difficult to reach through official channels. Because I'm a nurse and you're—" I gestured vaguely, not sure how to finish that sentence without insulting him. "Because the hospital has protocols," he finished for me. "And I don't like protocols that get in my way." I should have been scared. Part of me was. but a larger part was curious and probably stupid. What do you want? To thank you properly and to make you an offer. I've already been thanked. And I don't need anything. Leonardo is being discharged tomorrow, he said. And something in his voice changed, softened. He's stabilized. But the doctors say the next 6 months are critical. He has a genetic condition that makes him vulnerable to these episodes. They could happen again. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. But I don't understand what that has to do with me. He took a step closer. I watched him, tense, ready to run if I needed to. He needs specialized care. A nurse who understands his condition, who can recognize the warning signs, who has the knowledge and the courage to act when doctors miss things. Someone like you. You want to hire me? I want to hire you to be Leonardo's private nurse for the next 6 months. Live-in position at my estate. Salary 10 times what you make here. The number he named made my breath catch. That was enough to pay off my mother's medical bills. Enough to actually save something. Enough to change everything. But there was always a catch. Why me? I asked carefully. There are private nurses with more experience. People who specialize in pediatric care. Because you saved his life when no one else could. Because you have instincts that can't be taught. Because when you were right, you didn't back down even when it cost you. He pulled an envelope from his jacket, handed it to me. I opened it with shaking hands. Contract. Legal. Detailed. And that salary, right there in black and white. I can't, I said, even though every practical part of my brain screamed at me to take it. I don't know you. And the name Valentasi, I know what it means. His eyes darkened. What do you think it means? It means you're not in the shipping business. Not really. Smart, he said quietly. And honest. I appreciate both. Yes, Sophia. My family has interests that aren't entirely legal. But my son is just a 5-year-old boy who almost died because no one else was paying attention. That's all this is about. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to take that money and that job and convince myself it was just about helping a sick child. But I'd seen enough crime dramas, heard enough stories. I need to think about it. Fair enough. He reached into his pocket again, pulled out another card. Different from the first. This one had a number handwritten on it. Call me when you decide. But Sophia, don't take too long. Leonardo needs you. He walked away then, disappearing into the shadows of the parking garage, leaving me standing there with a contract that could save my life or destroy it. I went home. Didn't sleep. Stared at the contract until the words blurred. Called my best friend Camila at 6 a.m. You're insane if you take this, she said immediately. You know who he is, right? Carlos Valentasi. His family runs half the port operations in the city. Not exactly clean business. I know. Then why are you even considering it? Because a child needs help. Because I can actually make a difference. Because I trailed off, not sure how to explain the rest. Because he got under your skin. Camilla finished for me. I could hear the worry in her voice. Soph, be careful. Men like that, they're dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with business. She was right. I knew she was right. But 2 days later, I found myself at the private hospital where Leonardo had been transferred. I told myself I just wanted to see how he was doing, that I owed myself that much before I made a decision. The nurse's station directed me to room 412. I knocked softly. A small voice answered. Come in. Leonardo was sitting up in bed, coloring in a book. He looked so much better than the last time I'd seen him. Color in his cheeks. Bright eyes. Alive. He looked up when I entered, and his face split into the sweetest smile. You're the nurse who helped me. Papa said you saved me. My throat tightened. How are you feeling? Better. The doctors say I can go home tomorrow. I'm excited but also scared. What if I get sick again? I sat down in the chair beside his bed. That's why you're going to have someone watching over you. Someone who knows exactly what to look for. Are you going to be my nurse? I don't know yet, I said honestly. Would you want me to be? He nodded vigorously. You seem nice. And Papa trusts you. He doesn't trust many people. Smart kid. Too smart, maybe. I'll think about it, okay? He smiled again, then went back to his coloring. I watched him for a few more minutes, this little boy with dark curls and his father's eyes, and felt something in my chest crack open. When I left the hospital, I pulled out my phone, dialed the number Carlos had given me. He answered on the second ring. Sophia. I have conditions, I said before I could change my mind. 6-month contract, like you said, but I make all medical decisions regarding Leonardo. I have complete autonomy there, and I want it in writing that I can leave if I feel unsafe or uncomfortable at any time. Agreed. Just like that? Just like that. When can you start? I need 2 weeks to give notice at the hospital. 1 week. I'll make it worth their while to let you go early. Of course he would. Probably buy the whole hospital if he wanted. 1 week, I repeated. And Mr. Valentasi, if you're lying to me, if this is anything other than caring for your son, I will walk out and I will go to the police. Are we clear? Crystal clear, he said. And I could hear something like respect in his voice. I'll have my lawyers send over the revised contract today. He hung up. I stood there in the hospital parking lot, midday sun beating down on me, and wondered what the hell I'd just agreed to. Camilla's voice echoed in my head. Men like that, they're dangerous. But so was I, apparently. Dangerous enough to walk straight into the fire. I just hoped I wouldn't get burned. 3 weeks after the night I'd nearly lost a child in the ER, I stood at the iron gates of the Valentasi estate with 2 suitcases and growing certainty that I'd made either the best or worst decision of my life. The gates opened silently, smooth mechanics that probably cost more than my annual salary. A black SUV waited beyond them. The driver who emerged looked like he could break me in half without trying. Miss Mercanti. I'm Adriano Sassolini, head of security. Mr. Valentasi asked me to bring you to the residence. Security. Right. Because normal people needed heads of security. The drive through the property took 5 minutes. 5 minutes of manicured gardens, fountains, and enough land that I lost sight of the main road entirely. When the mansion came into view, my breath caught despite myself. 3 stories of stone and glass, balconies overlooking grounds that stretched into the distance. This wasn't wealth. This was power. Adriano carried my bags like they weighed nothing, led me through doors that probably cost more than my car, through a foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that belonged in a museum. My sneakers squeaked against the stone. I felt profoundly out of place. The medical wing is on the 2nd floor, east side, Adriano said. You'll have a bedroom suite adjacent to Leonardo's room. Everything you requested has been set up. Thank you. He studied me with dark eyes that missed nothing. Leonardo is a good kid. Deserves someone who gives a damn. I plan to. Good. Because if you hurt him, Mr. Valentasi won't have to do anything. I will. The threat landed between us, cold and clear. I met his gaze without flinching. If I wanted to hurt children, I wouldn't have become a nurse. His expression softened fractionally. Fair enough. Come on. I'll show you to your quarters. My suite was bigger than my entire apartment. King bed with linens that probably had a thread count higher than my bank balance. Private bathroom with a tub I could swim in. A sitting area with medical equipment already installed. Monitors, oxygen, emergency supplies, everything I'd listed. And through a connecting door, Leonardo's room. I knocked before entering. Found him sitting cross-legged on his bed. Same coloring book from the hospital. Tongue poking out in concentration as he filled in a dinosaur with careful precision. He looked up, and his face split into that heartbreaking smile. You came. I promised I would, didn't I? Papa said you might change your mind, that sometimes people say things but don't mean them. Well, I meant it. How are you feeling? Good. A little tired. They made me do tests all morning. I pulled up a chair beside his bed, already falling into assessment mode. Let me take a look at you, okay? Just a quick check. He submitted to my examination with the patience of a child who'd spent too much time in hospitals. Vitals stable, color good, pupils reactive, no signs of distress. But there was wariness in his eyes, guardedness that no 5-year-old should have. You're doing great, I said, ruffling his dark curls. But if you start feeling strange, anything at all, you tell me immediately. Deal? Deal. The door opened. Carlos Valentasi stood in the threshold, and the air pressure in the room changed. He wore a dark suit, no tie, top button undone. Even casual, he radiated control. Sophia, welcome. Mr. Valentasi. Carlos, he corrected. If we're living under the same roof, formality seems excessive. Leonardo jumped off the bed, ran to his father with uncomplicated affection. Papa! Sophia says I'm doing great. Carlos caught him, lifted him easily, but I saw it. The way he held Leonardo like he was afraid the boy might shatter. The way his eyes scanned his son for any sign of illness. This was a man who'd already lost too much. That's good news, Carlos said, setting Leonardo back down. Why don't you finish your coloring while Sophia and I talk? Leonardo returned to his bed obediently. Too obediently. Carlos gestured for me to follow him into the hallway. He closed the door behind us, leaving enough space for privacy but not so far that we couldn't respond if Leonardo needed us. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Thank you for coming, Carlos said quietly. I know this isn't conventional. That's one word for it. His mouth quirked. You don't pull punches. Would you want me to? No. He studied me with those dark eyes, and I felt exposed. Leonardo hasn't smiled like that since his mother died. You're good for him already. The words landed with weight. I pushed off the wall. You haven't mentioned her. His mother, Juliana. Carlos's expression shuddered. She died 2 years ago. Car bomb. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong life. I'm sorry. So am I. He looked away, jaw tight. Leonardo was 3. He remembers enough to know she's gone. Not enough to understand why. And I pulled away. Couldn't handle the grief and the fear. So I became what I needed to be for the business and forgot how to be what he needed. And what did he need? A father, not a ghost. The honesty cut through me. I wasn't prepared for this vulnerability from a man who should have been all hard edges. You can change that, I said softly. It's not too late. Maybe. He met my eyes again. That's partly why you're here. Not just for medical care. Leonardo needs someone who sees him as a child. Not a liability or an heir. Someone who'll read him stories and make him laugh and let him be 5 years old. That wasn't in my job description. Consider it a bonus clause. I shook my head, but I was smiling despite myself. You're used to getting what you want, aren't you? Usually. He stepped closer, and my pulse kicked up. But you're not someone who can be bought or intimidated. I respect that more than you know. The air between us felt charged, dangerous. I stepped back, re-establishing distance. I should get settled in. Leonardo needs dinner and his evening medications. Of course. Carlos retreated as well, that shuttered expression returning. Dinner is at 7. I'd like you to join us. Is that a request or an order? With you, always a request. He left before I could respond, leaving me standing in that hallway wondering what I'd gotten myself into. The next few days established a rhythm. Mornings were Leonardo's therapies, gentle exercises to rebuild strength. Afternoons were rest and play, coloring books and stories and laughter. Evenings were dinner with Carlos, who watched his son with hungry eyes but maintained careful distance. I learned things in those quiet hours. Learned that Leonardo was brilliant, reading above his grade level, asking questions that made me scramble for answers. Learned that he loved dinosaurs and hated peas and wanted a dog, but his father said it wasn't safe. Learned that he missed his mother with grief that snuck up on him unexpectedly. And I learned about the house itself, the security cameras everywhere, the guards who changed shifts with military precision, the staff who spoke in careful voices and never asked questions, Adriano's constant presence, always watching. This was a fortress disguised as a home. One evening, a week into my tenure, I found Leonardo crying quietly in his bed. When I asked what was wrong, he just shook his head. So I sat beside him, pulled him close, and started humming. A simple melody, nothing special, just something my grandmother used to sing when I was scared. Leonardo's sobs quieted. That's pretty. What is it? An old Italian lullaby. My nonna taught it to me. Can you teach it to me? So I did. singing softly in a language I barely remembered, letting the words wrap around us like comfort. Leonardo's breathing evened out, his small body relaxing against mine. I didn't hear Carlos enter. Didn't see him standing in the doorway until I'd finished and looked up. His expression was raw, unguarded, devastated. He turned and left before I could speak. Later, much later, after Leonardo was deeply asleep, I heard movement in the hallway. Found Carlos sitting on the floor outside Leonardo's door, head in his hands. I sat down beside him. Didn't say anything. Just waited. Juliana used to sing that song, he said finally, voice rough. I haven't heard it in 2 years. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Don't apologize. He looked at me, and in the dim light, he looked younger, vulnerable. I'd forgotten how it sounded. Forgotten that Leonardo needed that kind of comfort. I've been so busy keeping him alive, I forgot to let him live. You're trying now. That counts. Does it? His laugh was bitter. I'm 38 years old, and a 27-year-old nurse has to teach me how to be a father. I'm not teaching you. I'm just here, doing what needs to be done. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, so softly I almost missed it. Thank you. For being here. For caring about him. It's my job. No. His eyes held mine. This is more than a job. You see him. Really see him. That's not something money can buy. The intensity of his gaze made my breath catch. I looked away first, standing with an excuse about checking equipment, but I felt his eyes on me as I retreated to my room. And I felt something shift between us. Something that scared me more than any threat Adriano could make. Because Carlos Valentasi was dangerous, yes, but not in the way I'd expected. He was dangerous because underneath the power and violence and control, he was just a man trying to save his son. Just a father, drowning in grief and fear. And I was already starting to care about both of them, far more than was safe. I lay in bed that night, listening to Leonardo's soft breathing through the monitoring system, and wondered how I'd protect my heart when this was over. Wondered if it was already too late. 5 weeks into my time at the Valentasi estate, Leonardo's latest blood work came back perfect. The metabolic markers were stable, the ammonia levels normal, his system functioning the way it should. I watched him racing across the back lawn chasing a butterfly, and my chest tightened with something that felt dangerously close to pride. Sophie, he called, his new nickname for me slipping out naturally. Come see. I jogged over, laughing as he pointed excitedly at a monarch perched on a rose bush. The boy who'd been seizing on an ER gurney 5 weeks ago was now running, playing, living. Medical miracle or not, I'd take it. Carlos appeared on the terrace, coffee in hand, watching his son with an expression that had shifted over the weeks. The careful distance had shortened. He'd started reading bedtime stories again, started eating breakfast with Leonardo instead of disappearing into his office before dawn, started being present, and maybe that was the most dangerous thing of all. Because watching Carlos Valentasi transform from a ghost into a father made him more real, more human, more impossible to resist. He's doing remarkably well, Carlos said as I joined him on the terrace. Thanks to you. Thanks to modern medicine and a good treatment plan. Don't diminish what you've done. His dark eyes held mine. Leonardo laughs now. He asks questions. He acts like a kid again. That's not medicine. That's you. The intensity of his gaze made my pulse skip. I looked away, watching Leonardo instead. He's a fighter. He was always going to bounce back. Maybe. But you gave him a reason to. Before I could respond, Adriano emerged from inside, his expression tight. We need to talk. Now. The shift in Carlos was immediate. The warmth vanished, replaced by cold authority. I'll be right back, he said to me, then followed Adriano inside. I stayed with Leonardo, playing in the garden until lunch, but something felt off. The guards seemed more alert, their positions more strategic. When we went inside, I noticed additional security near the entrances. That night, after Leonardo was asleep, I found Carlos in his study. Knocked even though the door was open. He looked up from papers spread across his desk, exhaustion stark on his face. Come in. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. What's going on? He leaned back in his chair. Nothing you need to worry about. The guards doubled today. Adriano looks like he's expecting a siege. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending everything's fine. Carlos studied me for a long moment. Then he gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. I sat. We've had surveillance on the property, he said carefully. Unidentified vehicles, cameras positioned in places they shouldn't be. Someone's watching the estate. Who? Best guess? The Bratva. Russian organized crime. We've had territorial disputes over port operations for months. It's been escalating. My stomach dropped. Are we in danger? Is Leonardo in danger? I won't let anything happen to either of you. His voice was steel, but I need to leave tomorrow. Meeting with our allies, trying to establish a stronger position before this turns into open war. How long? 3 days? Maybe 4. Adriano will be here with enhanced security. You'll be safe, but you won't be. The words hung between us. Carlos's expression softened fractionally. I've been doing this a long time, Sophia. I know how to handle myself. That's not an answer. No, it's not. He stood, walked around the desk, stopped close enough that I could feel the heat of him. But it's the only one I can give you. I should have stepped back, should have maintained professional distance. Instead, I stood as well, closing the space between us. This is insane. The whole situation. Living in a fortress, armed guards everywhere, you disappearing to handle territorial disputes like it's normal. It's my life. Always has been. Well, it's terrifying. And I hate that Leonardo has to grow up in it. And I hate that you think this is just how things have to be. What would you have me do? Walk away? The business doesn't work like that. Once you're in until someone puts you in the ground. Then get out. I grabbed his arm, surprising both of us. You said you wanted to be a better father. How can you do that if you're dead? You think I haven't thought about that? His voice was rough. Every day I think about it. Every time I look at Leonardo and see Juliana's eyes, I think about walking away, taking him somewhere safe, starting over. But it's not that simple. Why not? Because the moment I show weakness, the moment I try to leave, they'll come for us. For him. The only thing keeping Leonardo safe is my power, my reputation. If I walk away, I'm just a man with a vulnerable son. Easy target. The logic was brutal, and probably true. I released his arm, stepping back. I'm sorry. I don't understand your world. I just know I care about that little boy upstairs. You care about him. What about me? The question caught me off guard. I looked up, found Carlos watching me with an intensity that stole my breath. What? Do you care about me, Sophia? Or am I just the dangerous father who comes with the job? I should have lied. Should have kept it professional. But the truth came out anyway. I care. More than I should. More than is smart or safe. Show me. What? Show me that you care. It was reckless. It was stupid. It crossed every line I'd been trying to maintain. But when Carlos stepped closer, when his hand came up to cup my face, when his eyes searched mine for permission, I gave it. The kiss started gentle, questioning, but within seconds it transformed into something desperate, urgent. 2 people who'd been circling each other for weeks finally giving in. His hands tangled in my hair. Mine gripped his shoulders. And for those few minutes there was no danger, no business, no complications. Just this. He pulled back first, resting his forehead against mine. This is a terrible idea. The worst. I don't want to stop. Me neither. But we should. For Leonardo, if nothing else. He deserves stability. Not his father getting involved with his nurse. I know. Neither of us moved. When I leave tomorrow, Carlos said quietly, promise me you'll be careful. Listen to Adriano. Stay inside unless he clears it. Keep Leonardo close. I promise. He kissed me again, softer this time. Then he stepped back, putting necessary distance between us. You should go. Before I forget why this is a bad idea. I left. Went back to my room. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling while my lips still burned from his kiss. And my heart raced with equal parts desire and terror. The next morning, Leonardo had a nightmare. I was in his room before I'd fully woken, checking him over, calming him down. Carlos appeared moments later, still in pajama pants, concern etched across his face. "Papa," Leonardo whimpered, reaching for his father. Carlos gathered him up, held him close. "I'm here, mio filio. You're safe." I stepped back, giving them space, watched father and son together, and felt my heart crack open wider. Carlos's eyes found mine over Leonardo's head. The look we shared was loaded with everything we couldn't say. Later, after Leonardo had calmed and gone back to sleep, after Carlos had showered and dressed in his armor of expensive suits, he found me in the medical room organizing supplies. He closed the door, pulled me close, kissed me like it might be the last time. "Come back safe," I whispered against his lips. "Always." He touched my face, traced my cheekbone with his thumb. "Take care of him. Take care of yourself." Then he was gone. I watched from Leonardo's window as he left with a convoy of black SUVs, and tried not to think about all the ways this could go wrong. Tried not to think about how much it would hurt if he didn't come back. Adriano found me later that afternoon. "We need to talk about protocols. If anything happens, you take Leonardo to the safe room. You know where it is? The one in the sublevel." "Yes." "Good. Don't leave for any reason until I give the all clear. No matter what you hear. Leonardo's safety is everything." "Understood?" "Understood." He nodded, started to leave, then paused. "He cares about you, Carlos. I've known him 20 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. That doesn't change anything." "Doesn't it?" Adriano's expression was unreadable. "Maybe it changes everything." He left before I could respond. I stood in the empty hallway, touching my lips where Carlos had kissed me hours before, and wondered if Adriano was right. Wondered if love could be enough when the whole world was determined to tear you apart. That night I couldn't sleep. Checked on Leonardo 3 times, paced my room, finally gave up and went to the kitchen for tea. The house felt too large, too empty without Carlos's presence filling the spaces. I was halfway through my second cup when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Sophia. Carlos. His voice was rough, tired. "Is everything okay?" "We're fine. Leonardo's asleep." "Are you okay?" There was a pause, long enough that my heart started racing. "I'm fine. Just wanted to hear your voice." "Where are you?" "Can't say. But I'm thinking about you. About what happens when I get back." "What does happen?" "I don't know. But I know I don't want to pretend anymore. Don't want to keep my distance. Don't want to act like you're just Leonardo's nurse when you're so much more. Carlos, I have to go. But Sophia, you belong to me now, whether you want to or not. Whether it's smart or not. You're mine." He hung up before I could respond. I sat in that dark kitchen, phone pressed to my chest, and felt the truth of his words settle into my bones. I was his, and God help me. I didn't want to be anything else. Even if it destroyed us both, 3 days without Carlos felt like 3 weeks. Leonardo asked for his father constantly, and I had to invent excuses about important business meetings, while my own anxiety gnawed at me. Every time my phone rang, my heart stopped. The storm rolled in on the 4th night. Thunder shook the windows as I tucked Leonardo into bed, reading him his favorite dinosaur book for the 3rd time. He'd been clingy all day, sensing my tension. "Will Papa be home soon?" he asked, dark eyes wide with worry. "Very soon," I promised, hoping it was true. "He's just finishing some work." "I miss him." "I know, sweetheart. Me too." I stayed until he fell asleep, his small hand wrapped around my fingers. Then I retreated to my room, listening to the rain hammer against the glass, watching lightning split the sky. At 2:47 in the morning, the power went out. My training kicked in before my fear could. I grabbed my phone, used the flashlight to navigate to Leonardo's room. He was still sleeping, thank God. I stood in his doorway, waiting for the backup generators to activate. 4 seconds. That's how long it took. 4 seconds of complete darkness before the emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in dim red. And in those 4 seconds, alarms started screaming. I ran to Leonardo's bed, shook him awake. "Wake up, baby. We need to go. Right now. His eyes flew open, immediately terrified. What's happening? It's okay. I scooped him up, felt him wrap his arms around my neck. We're going to play that game, remember? Like Papa showed you? The safe room, he whispered. The door burst open. Adriano, weapon drawn, blood on his sleeve. Go. Now. Don't stop for anything. Gunfire exploded from somewhere below us. Leonardo flinched violently against me. I ran. Down the hallway, through the service corridor, past the wine cellar, into the sublevel. My bare feet slapped against cold stone. Leonardo's breath came in panicked gasps against my shoulder. Behind us, more gunfire. Shouting in a language I didn't recognize. The thunder of boots on stairs. I reached the steel door, punched in the code with shaking hands. It took 3 tries while sounds of violence grew closer. Finally, the lock disengaged. I shoved through, sealed us inside. The safe room was exactly as Adriano had shown me. Reinforced walls, communication system, medical supplies, and a monitor showing security feeds from around the property. I set Leonardo down, checked him over. Are you hurt? Any pain? He shook his head, tears streaming. I want Papa. I know, baby. I pulled him close, one eye on the monitors. Papa's coming. But right now we stay here, okay? The monitors showed chaos. Men in black tactical gear swarming the mansion. Guards engaging them. Adriano directing defense with brutal efficiency. But there were too many attackers. This wasn't a warning. This was an invasion. Leonardo's breathing grew ragged. I recognized the signs immediately. Panic attack, potentially triggering a metabolic episode. No, not now. Hey, I said, forcing my voice calm. Remember what we practiced? When you get scared? The breathing exercises, he managed. That's right. Deep breath in. Hold it. 1, 2, 3. Now let it out slowly. We breathed together. In and out. Counting. His panic gradually subsided. His color stayed good. No signs of an episode. Thank God. An explosion rocked the building. Leonardo screamed. I held him tighter, positioning myself between him and the door. The monitors showed smoke, fire in the east wing, guards falling back, and then bodies. Sophia. The intercom crackled to life. Adriano's voice strained. Status. I lunged for the panel. We're secure. Leonardo's stable. What's happening? Bratva hit squad. 12 men, heavily armed. We've got it contained, but barely. Carlos? On his way. ETA 15 minutes. Hold tight. Adriano, there's fire in the east wing. I know. Stay in the safe room. No matter what. Even if it sounds like we've lost, you stay locked in until Carlos or I give you the all clear. Understood? Understood. The intercom went dead. I watched the monitors. Watched men fight and die. Watched the mansion turn into a war zone. Leonardo had his face buried in my shoulder, crying quietly. I stroked his hair, sang the Italian lullaby, and tried not to let him hear the terror in my voice. 15 minutes. Carlos would be here in 15 minutes. Time crawled. Each minute felt like an hour. I watched the monitors. The attackers were being pushed back, but slowly. Some made it deep into the house. One passed within feet of the safe room entrance. Then, on the monitor showing the front gates, headlights, black SUVs crashed through the gate. The lead vehicle slammed directly into a group of attackers. Carlos. He emerged from the vehicle before it fully stopped, weapon in hand, and the expression on his face was murderous. Pure, cold rage. He moved through those men like vengeance incarnate. No hesitation, no mercy. Just brutal, efficient violence. He was alive. He was here. Within minutes, the tide turned. The attackers tried to retreat but found themselves trapped. It was over in less than 5 minutes. Finally, the intercom crackled again. Sophia. Carlos's voice, rough and urgent. I'm coming to you. Don't open for anyone else. Okay. I heard his footsteps before his voice. Then the knock. It's me. I checked the monitor first. Saw him standing there, covered in blood, suit destroyed, but alive. I punched in the code, opened the door. Carlos took one look at me and Leonardo, and something in his expression cracked. He crossed the distance in 2 strides, pulled us both into his arms. "Papa," Leonardo sobbed into his father's shoulder. "I've got you." Carlos's voice broke. "I've got both of you. You're safe now." I felt him trembling. This man who just killed without hesitation was shaking as he held his son. "Are you hurt?" he asked me, pulling back just enough to scan my face. "No, we're fine. Leonardo had a panic episode, but I managed it." His eyes closed briefly. "Thank God." "What happened?" "Ambush. They hit us at the meeting, used it as a distraction for this." He looked around the safe room, jaw tight. "They wanted Leonardo. Wanted leverage. How did they know you'd be gone?" "Someone told them. Someone inside my organization sold us out. The magnitude of that betrayal settled over us." Adriano appeared in the doorway. "Carlos, we've got 5 alive for questioning." "Good." Carlos handed Leonardo to me. "Take him back to his room. Stay with him. I'll handle this. I don't think you should see whatever you're about to do," I said quietly. His eyes met mine, and in them I saw the truth of who he was. "You're probably right, but they came for my son. They came for you. There's no mercy for that." He kissed Leonardo's forehead, then mine, brief and fierce. "I'll come to you when it's done." Then he was gone, and I was left with a terrified child in my arms, and the knowledge that somewhere in this mansion, Carlos was doing things I didn't want to imagine. I carried Leonardo back to his room. It was untouched, blessedly free of the violence. I checked him thoroughly, monitoring for any delayed reaction. He was okay. Physically, at least. He clung to me, wouldn't let me put him down, so I sat in his bed with him in my lap, wrapped in blankets, and waited. Hours passed. Dawn broke. Finally, the door opened. Carlos stood in the threshold, cleaned up but exhausted. Different clothes, blood washed away, but the weight of what he'd done still hung on him. "Is he asleep?" he asked quietly. I looked down. Leonardo had finally passed out from exhaustion. "Yeah, just now." Carlos approached carefully, like he was afraid he'd contaminate us with the violence still clinging to him. He knelt beside the bed, touched Leonardo's hair with infinite gentleness. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Is it over? For now, the men who attacked us won't be a problem again." And the traitor was identified. I didn't ask what happened to them. I didn't want to know. "We can't stay here," Carlos continued. "The safe house in the mountains. You and Leonardo leave tomorrow. This isn't over. The Bratva will retaliate. What about you? I have to finish this. End it permanently. But I need to know you're both safe first." I nodded. Leonardo stirred in my sleep, reached for his father without waking. Carlos took his hand, pressed it against his chest. "I thought I'd lost you both," he said, voice breaking. "When Adriano called me, when he told me they'd breached the estate, I thought I was too late, but you weren't. This time." His eyes found mine. "Sophia, after tonight, after you saw what I did, what I'm capable of, I wouldn't blame you if you wanted out." I looked at this man, this complicated, dangerous, devoted man, and knew the truth. "I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me now." His smile was exhausted but real. "You belong to me." "Yeah." I kissed his forehead. "I do." We stayed like that until the sun rose. The 3 of us together, survivors of a night that should have destroyed us but somehow made us stronger. And I knew, as I watched Carlos hold his son, that there was no going back. I'd chosen this life. This man. This terrifying, beautiful, impossible love. Now I just had to survive it. Dawn broke over a mansion that looked like a war zone. Bullet holes pockmarked the walls. Windows were shattered. Blood stained the marble floors. I stood in Leonardo's doorway, watching Carlos orchestrate the cleanup with cold efficiency while his son slept, mercifully oblivious to the carnage. The reality of what had happened settled over me like ice water. We'd almost died. Leonardo had almost been taken, and the only thing standing between us and that fate was Carlos's willingness to be more violent than anyone else. "Sophia." Carlos appeared beside me. his hand gentle on my lower back. "We need to talk." I followed him to his study, the only room that seemed untouched by last night's violence. He closed the door, poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey despite the early hour, then turned to face me. "You can't stay here," he said without preamble. "Neither of you. The Bratva will retaliate, and next time they might succeed. Where would we go? I have a property in the mountains, off the grid, known only to my inner circle. You and Leonardo will go there today. Adriano will take you. What about you? I have to end this." His jaw tightened. The attack last night was orchestrated by the Bratva, but funded by someone else. Someone who wants me weak. I need to find out who and eliminate the threat permanently. How long? However long it takes. The thought of being separated from him, especially now, made my chest ache. But the thought of Leonardo in danger was worse. "Okay, we'll go." Carlos set down his glass, crossed to where I stood, pulled me close. "I'm sorry. For all of this. You didn't sign up for war. I signed up for Leonardo. Everything else comes with the package. You could leave. Take your money, walk away, be safe." Could I? I looked up at him, because I don't think my heart would let me anymore. His kiss was desperate, claiming. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "You're mine, Sophia. After this is over, after everyone who threatened my family is dead, I'm never letting you go. You understand?" "Yeah, I do." "Good. Now go pack. Light. We move in an hour." The mountain house was nothing like the estate. It was smaller, more intimate, built into the hillside with panoramic views of wilderness in every direction. Security was invisible but present. Cameras, sensors, armed men positioned in strategic locations. Home for the foreseeable future. Leonardo adjusted quickly, as children do. He had me, he had his toys, he had video calls with his father twice a day. That was enough. For a 5-year-old anyway. For me, it was torture. Days bled into each other. I maintained Leonardo's medical routine, played endless games of dinosaurs, read until my voice went hoarse. But every night, I lay awake wondering where Carlos was, what he was doing, if he was safe. Camilla called on the 3rd day. I took it outside, away from Leonardo's ears. "You're all over the news," she said without preamble. Not by name, but there was an incident at the Valentasi estate. Deaths. Lots of them. "I'm fine. We're fine." "Soph, what are you doing? This isn't just dating a dangerous man anymore. This is active warfare." "I know. Then come home. Bring Leonardo. Come home and let me help you disappear." "I can't. Can't or won't. Both." I closed my eyes. "Cam, I love him. I love them both. I can't walk away. Even if it gets you killed? Even then." She was quiet for a long moment, then softer. "Okay, but if you need me, if you need anything, you call. Promise me." "I promise." After I hung up, I cried. For the life I'd left behind. For the innocence I'd lost. For the woman I'd been before Carlos Valentasi walked into that ER and changed everything. But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. A week into our mountain exile, Adriano pulled me aside after dinner. "We have a problem." My stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" The investigation into the attack revealed something. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The mole wasn't just anyone. It was Carlos's accountant. Mid-level guy. Access to schedules, movements, patterns. The Bratva paid him for information. Was? Carlos handled it personally. I didn't need details. What's the problem then? The accountant had been talking for months. Sold information about Leonardo's condition, your arrival, the routine. Everything. The Bratva knows exactly how vulnerable Leonardo is. They were planning to take him, force Carlos to surrender territory in exchange. Oh God. They won't stop. Not until they get what they want or we eliminate them completely. Carlos is working on the latter, but it's complicated. The Bratva has protection, connections, power. How complicated? He's meeting with them. Neutral ground, mediated by the Cosa Nostra. Either they negotiate territory or this turns into open war. When? Tomorrow night. The fear that gripped me was physical. Adriano, that's a trap. You know it's a trap, probably, but it's also the only way forward. Carlos knows the risk. I wanted to scream, wanted to demand he call it off, stay hidden, choose safety. But I knew Carlos. Knew he'd never hide while his family was threatened. He'd walk into hell itself if it meant ending the threat. Keep Leonardo safe, Adriano said. Whatever happens, whatever you hear, he's the priority. I know. That night I held my phone until midnight, waiting for Carlos's call. It came at 12:15. Sophia. Just hearing his voice made my eyes sting. How are you? Exhausted. Missing you. Missing Leonardo. This needs to end. Is tomorrow night really the only way? Yes. The Bratva won't back down otherwise. They see weakness in what happened. Think they can push harder, take more, and if it's a trap, then I spring it on my terms. He paused. I need you to know something. If this goes wrong, if I don't make it back, there's a contingency plan. Adriano has instructions, money set aside for you and Leonardo, new identities, a way out. Carlos, don't. Listen to me. His voice was steel. I've updated my will. Half my legitimate assets go to Leonardo, the rest in trust until he's 21. You're named as his guardian, legal and binding. Stop talking like you're going to die. I'm talking like a man who's learned that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I let his words settle between us. If something happens to me, promise you'll take care of him. Promise you'll get him out of this life. Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me, Sophia. The tears came then, silent and hot. I promise. But you're coming back. You have to come back. I plan to. Because I have a hell of a lot to live for now. I love you, Sophia. I should have said it before. Should have said it the first time I kissed you. But I'm saying it now. I love you. My heart cracked open. I love you too. Come back to me. Come back to us. Always. He hung up. I sat in that dark bedroom, phone clutched to my chest, and prayed to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. Please. Let him come home. Let him be okay. Let us have a chance at this impossible life. The next day crawled. Leonardo sensed my anxiety, growing clingy and quiet. I read him stories, made his favorite lunch, anything to distract us both, but all I could think about was Carlos walking into that meeting. Adriano found me in the kitchen after Leonardo went down for his nap. Carlos wants you to see something. He handed me a tablet. On the screen was a video message. Carlos, sitting in what looked like a hotel room, addressing the camera with an intensity that made my breath catch. Sophia, if you're seeing this, things went wrong. I'm sorry. Sorry for bringing you into this world. Sorry for not being able to protect you and Leonardo the way you deserved. But I need you to know that knowing you, loving you, it was worth everything. You brought light back into my life. You gave Leonardo a mother again. You made me remember what it felt like to be human. Take care of him. Take the money. Take the new life Adriano will give you. And get as far from this world as possible. Let Leonardo grow up normal, safe, happy. That's all I want. And Sophia, don't mourn me too long. Live. That's what I want for you. A life full of joy and peace and everything I couldn't give you. I love you. Always. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen, tears streaming down my face. He recorded that this morning, Adriano said quietly. Just in case. He's not dying, I said fiercely. He's coming back. I hope you're right. That night, I couldn't sleep. Paced the living room while Adriano sat stone-faced in the corner, monitoring communications, waiting for news. Any news. It came at 11:37. Adriano's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression giving nothing away. Then he looked at me. It's done. Carlos is alive. The relief nearly took me to my knees. Is he hurt? Some. But he's alive and the threat's been neutralized. We're clear. When can we see him? He's coming here. Should arrive in a few hours. I waited up. Watched the sun rise over the mountains. Watched the black SUVs wind up the long driveway. Watched Carlos emerge from the lead vehicle, favoring his left side but standing, Then I was running. Met him halfway. Threw myself into his arms despite the wince it caused. You're alive. You came back. Told you I would. His arms tightened around me. Always. Leonardo appeared in the doorway, sleep-rumpled and confused. Papa? Carlos released me, dropped to one knee despite the obvious pain. Leonardo ran to him, and I watched father and son hold each other. And I knew, standing in that mountain morning, that we'd survived. The attack, the separation, the war, whatever came next, we'd face it together, all three of us. A family forged in violence but held together by something stronger. Love. 4 weeks in the mountain house, and I'd almost forgotten what normalcy felt like. Carlos visited when he could, 3 times so far, each visit more precious than the last. We existed in a strange bubble, playing at being a family while the real world churned below. Leonardo flourished. His health remained stable. His laughter came easier. His nightmares faded. And one morning, he asked something that changed everything. Sophia? He said over breakfast, pushing his eggs around his plate. Can I ask you something? Of course, baby. Are you going to be my new mama? My breath caught. I looked to Carlos, who'd arrived late last night. His eyes held mine, waiting. Would you want that? I asked carefully. Yes. Leonardo's voice was small but certain. I love you. Papa loves you. We could be a real family. I reached across the table, took his small hand. We already are a real family, sweetheart. But would you? Stay with us? Forever? Forever's a long time, I said, smiling despite the tears in my eyes. But yeah, I'd like that very much. Carlos watched with an expression I'd never seen before. Hope. Pure, unguarded hope. Later, after Leonardo went down for his nap, Carlos found me on the deck. The view was spectacular, all pine forests and distant mountains. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. You meant that? About forever? I did. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. After this is over, I'm making this official. Ring, wedding, everything. Is that a proposal? It's a statement of intent. His lips brushed my neck. The proposal will be better. More romantic. I laughed, turned in his arms. I love you. I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone after Juliana. We stood wrapped in each other until Adriano's voice shattered the moment. Carlos. Emergency call. It's about the Bratva situation. Carlos's expression hardened instantly. Stay with Leonardo. He disappeared inside. I followed at a distance, heard his side of the conversation. What do you mean they're pushing back? We had an agreement. Silence. When? Where? His voice went cold. That's suicide. They know it's a trap. Another pause. I don't have a choice. If I don't show, they'll interpret it as weakness. He hung up, turned to find me in the doorway. The Bratva leadership wants another meeting. Different location. It's a trap, I said immediately. Probably. But if I don't go, the tentative peace collapses. We'll be back to open warfare. Then send someone else. Send Adriano. It has to be me. Power is maintained through presence, through never backing down, through showing strength even when you know it's dangerous. Even if it gets you killed? Especially then. I wanted to scream. But I understood. This was who he was. What his world demanded. When do you leave? Tomorrow. That night, Leonardo sensed something wrong. He clung to Carlos during dinner. Carlos's patience never wavered, assuring his son over and over that he'd be back soon. After Leonardo finally fell asleep, Carlos came to my room. We didn't talk. Just held each other. Made love like it might be the last time. Come back to me, I whispered as dawn approached. Always. But when he left with Adriano and a convoy of guards, dread settled into my bones. 2 days passed. 2 days of maintaining normalcy for Leonardo, while my nerves stretched tighter. Carlos called once, brief and distant. The meeting had been scheduled for the following night. Then silence. On the third day, Adriano called. Not Carlos. Adriano. Sophia. His voice was strained. We need you. Now. What happened? The meeting was an ambush. Shooting started before we even entered. Carlos is hit. Bad. We've got him at a secure location, but the doctor never showed. We think he was compromised. How bad? Gunshot wound, lower abdomen, heavy bleeding. He's conscious but deteriorating. We need medical intervention now or we'll lose him. The world tilted. Send me the location. I'm coming. No. Carlos's orders were explicit. You stay with Leonardo, then Carlos dies. I kept my voice level. I'm a trauma nurse, Adriano. I've handled gunshot wounds. I can stabilize him until you find another surgeon. But I need to be there. The pause felt eternal. I'll send a security team. Be ready in 5 minutes. I hung up. Moved on autopilot. Wrote everything down for the guard staying with Leonardo. Then I went to wake him. Leonardo. I knelt beside his bed. Baby, Papa got hurt. He needs my help, so I have to go for a little while. Is Papa going to die? Not if I can help it. But I need you to be brave. Stay with the guards. I'll be back as soon as I can. With Papa? With Papa. He threw his arms around my neck. I love you, Mama. The word hit me like a physical blow. He'd never called me that before. I held him tighter. I love you too, baby. So much. The ride took 40 minutes. A warehouse in an industrial district surrounded by Carlos's men. Inside was chaos. They had Carlos on a makeshift operating table, his shirt cut away, blood everywhere. Too much blood. I pushed past everyone. Moved. Carlos's eyes found mine, glazed with pain. You shouldn't be here. Shut up. I assessed the wound quickly. Entry wound in lower left abdomen. No exit wound. You're an idiot for going to that meeting. Noted. His attempt at a smile became a grimace. I turned to the men surrounding us. I need supplies, IV fluids, antibiotics, surgical kit, clean towels, oxygen. Move. They scrambled. Adriano appeared at my elbow. What do you need? A surgeon. I can stabilize him, control the bleeding, but I can't remove the bullet safely. The surgeon we had is dead. Killed before he could get here. Then find another one. Fast. I started an IV line, hands steady despite my terror. Carlos, stay with me. Don't you dare die. Trying not to. I worked systematically, controlled the bleeding with direct pressure, administered antibiotics, set up oxygen, monitored his vitals. Every skill I'd learned in 3 years of ER nursing came flooding back. Sophia, Carlos's hand found mine. If I don't make it, you're making it. I won't accept any other outcome. But if I don't, his eyes held mine. Take care of Leonardo. Get him out of this life. I promise. Now stop talking and conserve your energy. Adriano returned. I found someone. Dr. Sarah Chen, trauma surgeon. She's 30 minutes out. Carlos needs surgery now. She's the best we've got. Can you keep him alive for 30 minutes? I have to. Those 30 minutes were the longest of my life. I monitored every breath, every heartbeat, adjusted fluids, talked to Carlos constantly, forcing him to stay conscious, to keep fighting. When Dr. Chen finally arrived, professional and efficient, relief nearly took me to my knees. Fill me in, she said, already assessing Carlos. I gave her everything. Vitals, interventions, time since injury. She nodded, already prepping. You did good work. He's stable enough for me to operate, but I need you to assist. I can do that. The surgery took 2 hours. 2 hours of handing instruments, monitoring vitals, watching Dr. Chen work with steady hands to remove the bullet and repair the damage. The warehouse wasn't sterile. The conditions were far from ideal, but we made it work. When it was finally done, when the wound was closed and Carlos's vitals had stabilized, Dr. Chen stripped off her gloves. He'll need hospital care. Real hospital care. But he should survive. Thank you. She studied me. You love him. It wasn't a question. Yes. Good. He needs someone worth surviving for. Carlos woke 6 hours later, groggy but alive. The first thing he did was find my hand. You saved me. We saved you. I brushed hair back from his forehead. Leonardo? Safe. Waiting for us. His smile was weak but real. Told you I'd come back. You almost didn't. Almost doesn't count. He squeezed my hand. I love you, Sophia. I should have said it more. But I'm saying it now, and I'll keep saying it for however long you'll let me. My tears finally came. I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Good. Fear means you have something worth losing. We stayed in that warehouse for 2 more days, until Carlos was strong enough to travel. Then back to the mountains. Back to Leonardo. Back to the life we were building. And when Leonardo ran to his father, careful of his injuries but desperate to hold him, when Carlos pulled us both close and held us like we were his entire world, I knew we'd survived the worst. Everything else was just living. 3 weeks of recovery in the mountain house. 3 weeks of watching Carlos heal, of Leonardo's cautious attention to his father, of rebuilding what had almost been destroyed. But beneath the surface, wheels were turning. Adriano appeared one morning while Carlos was doing physical therapy, his movements still careful around the healing wound. We need to talk. Both of you. We gathered in Carlos's office. Adriano spread files across the desk, photographs of men I didn't recognize, documents in Russian. After the ambush, after Carlos was shot, we didn't just sit idle. His expression was grim. We retaliated. Hard. 3 of the Bratva's top lieutenants, including Viktor Belov, were eliminated within 48 hours. You went to war without me, Carlos said, but there was approval in his voice. You were dying in a warehouse. Someone had to act. Adriano leaned forward. The remaining Bratva leadership reached out. They want peace. Real peace this time. The other Italian families intervened, threatened to cut them off completely if they didn't negotiate in good faith. What are the terms? We keep the port operations. They get compensated with territory in the northern district, away from our core interests. Neutral mediators enforce the agreement. And most importantly, they acknowledge that the ambush was unsanctioned, carried out by Belov acting alone. Convenient story. Convenient, but functional. The alternative is mutual destruction. They know it. We know it. Everyone knows it. Carlos studied the documents. And this is guaranteed. As much as anything in our world can be. The Cosa Nostra vouches for it. They have too much invested in city stability to let this continue. Then we accept. Carlos looked at me. It's over, Sophia. Really over. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to accept that we could finally have peace. But I'd learned too much about his world to trust easy answers. The next day, Carlos made a decision that shocked everyone. I'm stepping back, he announced to his assembled lieutenants in a video call. Adriano will take over day-to-day operations. I'll remain as head of the family, make major decisions, but I'm not running the streets anymore. The silence was deafening. Adriano spoke first. Carlos, are you sure? I almost died. I almost left my son without a father. Again. Carlos's voice was steel. I'm not doing that anymore. Leonardo deserves a father who's present, not one who's constantly 1 bullet away from a grave. And Sophia deserves better than constantly waiting to hear if I'm coming home in a body bag. After the call ended, Carlos found me in Leonardo's room, where I was organizing his medications. He leaned against the doorframe, watching. You meant that? I asked. About stepping back? Every word. I've been running on rage and duty since Juliana died. But you and Leonardo, you gave me something to live for instead of just survive. I'm not wasting that. What will you do? Be a father. Be your husband, if you'll have me. Run the business from a distance. Let Adriano handle the violence. He crossed to where I stood, pulled a small box from his pocket. This isn't how I planned it. I had this whole romantic scenario worked out. Sunset, champagne, perfectly rehearsed speech. But I've learned that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. He opened the box. An emerald ring, surrounded by diamonds, caught the light. Marry me, Sophia. Make this family official. Let me spend whatever time I have left showing you that you made the right choice walking into my world. My hands were shaking. Yes, God. Yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger, kissed me like we had all the time in the world. Leonardo burst through the door moments later, saw the ring, and started jumping up and down. "Does this mean Sophia's really my mama now?" "Really and truly," Carlos said, pulling his son into our embrace. "Best day ever." Months passed. Months of normalcy that felt surreal after everything. We moved back to the main estate, now fully repaired and refortified. Carlos kept his promise, working from home, delegating the dangerous work to Adriano. Leonardo started kindergarten with careful security, but as much normalcy as possible. And we planned a wedding. Camilla flew in a week before, took one look at me, and burst into tears. "You're really doing this." "I really am. He better be worth it." "He is." I showed her the ring. "He really is." She pulled me into a hug. "Then I'm happy for you." Terrified but happy. The wedding was small, intimate, held in the estate gardens on a perfect autumn day. Just family and close friends. Adriano stood as Carlos's best man, Camilla as my maid of honor, and Leonardo, 6 years old and impossibly serious, as ring bearer. Carlos wore a dark suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. I wore a simple dress, ivory silk that flowed in the breeze. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that screamed Mafia wedding. Just two people committing to a life together. When it came time for vows, Carlos took my hands. "Sofia Mercanti, you walked into my life in the middle of my darkest moment. You saved my son. You saved me. You took a man who'd forgotten how to feel anything but rage and reminded him what it meant to love, to hope, to want more than just revenge and survival. I promise to be worthy of that gift. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you for every day I have left. You are my light in the darkness, my peace in the chaos, and the best decision I never knew I was making. My turn. I'd written vows, rehearsed them, but when the moment came, different words emerged. Carlos Valentasi, you terrified me from the first moment I saw you. This dangerous, powerful man who looked at me like I was the only person in the world. You challenged everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I wanted, about what I was capable of surviving. And you gave me a family when I'd given up on having one. A little boy who calls me Mama. A life that's complicated and messy, and sometimes terrifying, but never boring and never empty. I promise to stand beside you, to protect what we've built, and to love you even when the world tries to tear us apart. You're mine, and I'm yours, and nothing changes that. The officiant pronounced us married. Carlos kissed me while everyone applauded. Leonardo cheered loud enough to be heard in the next county. And for that perfect moment, everything was exactly right. The reception was beautiful. Dinner under string lights. Dancing that lasted until midnight. Adriano gave a speech that somehow managed to be both threatening and heartfelt, warning me that I was now family and under his protection whether I liked it or not. Camilla cornered Carlos during the dancing. I watched from across the garden as they talked, saw her point at him with clear warning, saw him nod with respect. "What did she say?" I asked when he returned to my side. "That if I hurt you, she'll make sure I regret it in ways the Bratva never managed." I laughed. "She means it." "I know." "I respect that." He pulled me close for another dance. "You have good people in your corner. So do you. We're lucky then." "We are." Later. Much later. After Leonardo had been carried to bed by an exhausted but happy Adriano. After the guests had left and the estate had quieted, Carlos and I stood on our bedroom balcony overlooking the grounds. "Happy?" he asked, arms around me from behind. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "Good, because I intend to spend the rest of my life keeping it that way." 1 year later, I watched Leonardo race across those same gardens chasing butterflies, while Carlos sat beside me on the terrace, coffee in hand, directing his empire from a tablet, but always keeping one eye on his son. Our son now. Legally, officially, in every way that mattered. "He's getting fast," Carlos observed. "He's healthy, strong, normal. Everything we wanted for him. Thanks to you. Thanks to us." Carlos set down his tablet, pulled me close. "You know, a year ago, I was lying in a warehouse bleeding out, convinced I'd never see another sunrise, never see Leonardo grow up, never get to marry you. But you did. But I did." He kissed my temple. Best year of my life. Mine, too. Leonardo ran up to us, breathless and grinning. Mama, Papa, come play with me. We went. Left the coffee and the tablet and the weight of the empire behind. Played tag in the garden while guards watched from a distance, and the sun set over mountains in the distance. This was the life I'd chosen. Complicated. Dangerous. Built on foundations that most people would run from. But it was mine. Ours. A family forged in trauma, but held together by love stronger than any threat. I caught Carlos watching me with that look he got sometimes. The one that said he still couldn't quite believe I was real. That I'd stayed. That I'd chosen him despite everything. I love you, I mouthed across the garden. His smile was everything. I love you too. Leonardo tackled his father, and they went down in a heap of laughter. I joined them, the three of us tangled together on the grass, and thought about how far we'd come from that night in the ER. A nurse who challenged hierarchy to save a life. A mafia boss who learned to love again. A little boy who got a second chance at family. Not a fairy tale. Fairy tales were too simple, too clean. This was something better. Something real. Something worth every risk, every fear, every impossible choice. This was home. This was family. This was love. And nothing, not the bratva, not the dangers of Carlos's world, not anything could take that away from us. We'd survived the worst. Everything else was just living. And God, what a beautiful life it was.